Please note that the Burn It Nutrition podcast is for educational purposes only and is not meant to substitute for the advice of a doctor. Please consult your GP before using any of the techniques or products discussed on this show. Hope you like it.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Burn It Nutrition podcast. I am your host, Joseph Navarro. On today's show, we will dive into the benefits of fasting and some of its history, as well as going over some of the different methods and shining the spotlight on intermittent fasting. But first, let's hear the news and announcements. If you want to know exactly what you need to do to achieve a body transformation and get the body you've always wanted in a healthy, effective, and sustainable plan, then download your copy of 5th Stage Keto. This will walk you through the stages to break past those weight loss plateaus and see the biggest changes in body composition. Plus, you will learn how to effectively implement intermittent fasting with the personal strategies I used in my own transformation. Just go to burnitnutrition.com and use coupon code BURNIT to get a $5 discount at checkout. Again, that is burnitnutrition.com to start your transformation. I'm so pleased to have you with us today. Now, let's start the show.
Burn it. You are not alone as you begin this new stage of life. Learn the strategic methods to reach your goals and flourish the light within. With our guidance, you will uncover the hidden truths that have been missing from your understanding. It's time to let it burn.
The physician Herbert Shelton once said, "Fasting must be recognized as a fundamental and radical process that is older than any other mode of caring for the sick organism, for it is employed on the plane of instinct." Insight from a man who over his years in practice monitored the fast of more than 40,000 patients. In recent years, the idea of fasting has begun to gain popularity as a tool for weight loss. But this practice of abstaining from food has actually been done since the dawn of time, and its benefits go far beyond just weight loss. Even in nature, we see how animals apply fasting on instinct when they fall ill. In a way, fasting is nature's very own method of healing that is used by many different species. And still, many in our modern cultures never truly consider this ancient practice of healing and rejuvenation as a tool to implement into their own lifestyle. Many dread the idea of going for more than a few hours without eating, believing that they are just not capable of applying a fast. And in today's episode, we are going to go deeper into fasting and get a better idea on its history, to understand why so many over the centuries have turned to it for health and even enhanced spiritual awareness. We will also learn of some of the different types of fasting options that are available in hopes of finding a method that can fit your own lifestyle, as well as shining a spotlight on the most popular method used, and that is intermittent fasting. Just to be clear, fasting is not mandatory, so don't feel like you have to fast. I simply ask that you hear me out and have an open mind, and simply consider this as a tool to add to your toolbox. Okay? Let's dive in and get a better understanding on fasting and learn a bit of its history. Fasting has been interweaved into a multitude of cultures since the dawn of time. From our early ancestors who endured long periods without finding food, to our early Native American tribes who also applied it as a ritual of passage into adulthood, and even in their marriage rituals. Maybe they figured that if that young couple still wanted to get married during the stress of a fast, then it really was love. But really, when many of us first heard of fasting, it was probably in the context of religion. The world's largest religions across the entire world applied fasting and understood its benefits on the body and on the soul. Ranging from Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonements observed in Judaism, to the holy month of Ramadan observed by the Muslims, as well as Catholics and Christians who practice fasting during Lent, in observation of the 40 days of fasting that Christ endured in the harsh wilderness of the Judean desert. These various religions may have different beliefs, but one thing they all had in common is that they all shared the idea that fasting was beneficial, using the self-discipline involved in a fast to aid them in other aspects of their faith. But fasting goes beyond the realm of faith and has actual profound health benefits that can be seen within the body. So much so that it was advocated by many of the great philosophers throughout history. Great minds like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle all acknowledged the healing benefits of fasting. Even one of the fathers of Western medicine, Paracelsus, once said, "Fasting is the greatest remedy, the physician within." We can even read through the dusty pages of history and learn some of the lives that were changed by implementing the practice of fasting. And one of them is the life of a Venetian nobleman named Luigi di Cornaro, who lived in the 15th century. He was a man who lived in indulgence and extravagance, living in a constant state of gluttonous feasting and gorging on food and wine, which sounds similar to many of our modern cultures. Well, his lifestyle of constant overindulgence led Luigi to be ill and bedridden at the early age of 40, and many of the doctors all over Italy who tried to help him were unable to improve his health. They all came to the conclusion that he didn't have much time left before his body failed. Then, when all ideas had seemed to be thought of, a doctor came in who went against the grain, applying different theories than the rest. He urged Luigi to apply a more temperate lifestyle and apply a method of fasting to give his body a much-needed rest. This new doctor explained that this would give the body a chance to heal, and considering the medications of the other docs hadn't done anything for him, he made the decision as he laid in his deathbed to take the advice and try this change in lifestyle. A complete opposite of what he was accustomed to. Well, as the days went on, Luigi began to reduce his intake and do periodic fasting. And wouldn't you know it, his health miraculously began to take a turn. He began to heal and eventually regained his strength, surviving his illness. Over the years, he continued to apply this new lifestyle, which helped this once bedridden young man live to the old age of 102. And before his death, he wrote a book where he laid out his ideas on temperate living and health, leaving his mark on the world. This is just one of the real stories of people throughout history who have seen the health benefits of fasting. So, let's go further into these benefits and see how they can be used in our modern times to help us reach our goals in a body transformation or in overall health. So, what is it about fasting that helps our body heal? What makes it so special that it has been done for thousands of years? Well, one of the main benefits implementing fasting will bring on is in the relief it gives your body from the constant work involved in digestion. The moment you consume a meal will begin an intensive process of digestion within you, a process that requires much energy. Many of us understand that we eat to receive energy. This is obvious. But what many don't grasp is that in order to be able to get this energy will require work and great effort on behalf of the body. You see, every time you consume a large meal, forces the body to focus its efforts into the digestion, assimilation, and metabolization of the meal you just ate, to be able to utilize the food consumed and convert it into a bioavailable and usable form. This will require up to 65% of the energy in your body to be reassigned to the organs that handle digestion. Meaning it has to put the healing and recovery on hold to deal with all the new food that has just entered the stomach. This is why you sometimes feel a nice, warm belly after eating. That warm feeling is the body working to digest the food you just ate. This feeling is called the thermic effect of feeding. Now, applying a fast allows the body to not be forced to put all this effort and work involved in digestion, giving it the time and energy to focus on repairing the damage that comes with sustaining life. And one of the ways fasting does this is with a process called autophagy. Autophagy is a process by where subcellular organelles are replaced with newer versions, a mechanism that begins the breakdown of old and defective materials. You can compare the process of autophagy to remodeling an old house, where you get rid of the old material and replace it with newer materials and appliances that are more efficient. The body does the same thing within the cells when in a fasted state, by allowing the hormone insulin to be reduced and releasing the hormone glucagon to begin the process of rejuvenation within the body. By removing the older organelles and cellular debris, as well as replacing the cell membranes that occurs in autophagy, will bring about a newer and healthier cell, which will make for a newer and upgraded version of you. Fasting will also increase insulin sensitivity, as well as reduce the buildup of amyloid proteins that can develop in the brain, reducing cognitive ability, which is seen in Alzheimer's patients. This may be from the increase in ketone production as well as autophagy. Now, one of the main reasons fasting is so effective in the body transformation is that it stimulates counter-regulatory hormones like neuroadrenaline and human growth hormone. Did you get that? Listen up because this is big. Neuroadrenaline is a hormone that helps keep the basal metabolic rate from decreasing, which is crucial in a weight loss journey. You see, the big problem of caloric restriction, which is used in standard dieting, is the issue of slowing of the metabolism. And this is where strategies like intermittent fasting comes in as a tool to help reduce this lowering of the basal metabolic rate, or the BMR, and thus reducing your chances of putting back on those pounds you work so hard to lose, which is essential for long-term success. This is such a big factor that we will have to go further into it in another episode. Now, the other key hormone fasting helps increase is human growth hormone, also called HGH. This is a powerful hormone that is helpful for the buildup of the new tissues that will be replacing the old and defective materials that is being destroyed in the process of autophagy. Fasting can really be a helpful tool to fight aging. It's almost like a real-life version of the fountain of youth. So, giving your body a break from the labor involved in digestion will allow to trigger these self-healing systems, helping it detoxify from all the foreign chemicals that can be found in the food that we eat today. Now, one big regulator and controller of the process of autophagy is mTOR, which is short for mammalian target of rapamycin, but now known as mechanistic target of rapamycin. You can view mTOR like a nutrient analyzer within the body that has the ability to signal and shut off these self-healing processes of autophagy. And it has been seen that protein is the biggest trigger of mTOR, meaning as soon as a protein is consumed will trigger mTOR to rise, which will stop autophagy in its tracks. Which is why just having an MCT coffee in the morning full of healthy fats, but leaving out proteins and carbs, will allow the body to continue to receive the benefits of autophagy. This is why I love having a super-fueled MCT coffee in the morning. MCT coffees can be very helpful for some. You see, many have a hard time adjusting to fasting when they first give it a try. The changes in eating habits can be tough to adjust to. Plus, it can be hard on their feelings of hunger as well as the mental side of skipping a meal. Which is why using strategies like MCT oil, as well as a shift into a lower carb or ketogenic diet, usually makes the changes applied in fasting much smoother and easier to handle. Now, even though MCT oils are great for helping you get comfortable with the practice of fasting when you're new to it, one thing to consider with MCT coffee and other versions of coffees full of healthy fats is that eventually, as you go further into your body transformation and you get closer towards your goals, when those stubborn pounds won't budge, will make MCT coffee a bit too calorically dense and may slow your progress, and you may have to consider reducing it. In my ebook 5th Stage Keto, I go over how to address these issues to help get past any of those plateaus. So, when it comes to MCT coffee, consider your goals and what stage you are in your journey to determine what you will put in your coffee. I have found that MCT oil and butter with heavy cream in my coffee is great for maintenance and to get more healthy fats into my day. It is also okay to have if your main goal with fasting is longevity and to receive the benefits of autophagy. But again, consider skipping it when weight loss stalls. So, to recap, you can avoid halting the process of autophagy by avoiding protein in the mornings to prevent the elevation of mTOR, or mammalian target of rapamycin. Isn't that a cool name? mTOR? Am I the only one who thinks it sounds cool? Mammalian target of rapamycin. Sounds like a futuristic weapon. I don't know about you, but I think it's cool. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, fasting. Now, let's keep going further into why fasting is your body's best friend. Well, like many aspects in life, balance is key, and fasting helps bring this balance. You see, having periods of fasting and feasting is the way our bodies evolved. It is absolutely normal and beneficial to take prolonged breaks from food. But what is not normal or healthy is to constantly be putting more and more food into your body, never allowing the body to focus on its own maintenance. We can visualize this by seeing the body as a computer. I'm sure most of us have experience sitting in front of the computer working away on a project, doing everything we can to finish before the deadline. You may have multiple browsers open, downloading files, playing a YouTube video, or printing and copying documents. Now imagine trying to do all this at the same time. It's a lot to handle, right? It will likely cause many computers to drastically slow down or even crash from the work overload. The same can happen within your body. If you have a constant intake of calories coming in, forcing your body to always have to deal with new sources of food will never give it the break it needs to deal with all the other responsibilities it needs to address. One thing I want to clarify is the difference between a proper fast and full-blown starvation. It's important to realize that they are not the same state of being. A body in a state of starvation will begin to consume vital proteins and lean tissues. Starvation will come with an overwhelming hunger and desperation. But a well-prepared fast will bring the body into a state of repair and recovery without the urge or uncontrollable desire for food. Starvation is usually forced upon by your situation, either in times of famine, war, or even self-induced starvation as a social or political statement. While a fast is a personal choice to take a break from food as a therapy for improved health and even a spiritual connection. But with the understanding that at any moment you can simply choose to eat. When done correctly, a fast can be a helpful tool in the detoxification of the body by giving your liver and kidneys plenty of time to purify and eliminate the toxins we encounter. There really is no need to drink expensive detox drinks. Simply fast and allow your very own systems in your body to detox the junk out. All that is needed is a proper fast. Fasting will also help save time and money by skipping breakfast and freeing up the mental energy for improved creativity and productivity. And it can also make you feel lighter on your feet, which is why whenever I go snowboarding, I like to start my morning fasted and also take in some exogenous ketones. This way, my body doesn't need to direct most of its energy into digestion while I ride. Instead, the energy can go into my muscles and mental decisions I need to safely and effectively perform the physical demands required in that sport. Plus, fasting will give you a break from the constant thinking about your next meal, and instead, you can focus on the more important tasks in your morning. Another overlooked benefit of fasting is that it allows you to better appreciate food when you do decide to eat. You see, fasting has been referred to as a reset button on your taste buds and senses. The detoxification process that occurs during a fast helps remove the chemicals in the body and the palate, allowing you to truly taste the flavors in real food. I have to admit it, I am a foodie at heart and thoroughly enjoy my meals. But this is why fasting is so great. The breaks I take from my food make it even better once I do decide to sit down for a meal. I can clearly remember back to my heavier set days, before my transformation, and before I went keto, and before I knew the many health benefits of fasting. I decided to go on a 3-day fast. I made the choice to take on this fast as a spiritual therapy. It was around the same time that I challenged myself with a year of no alcohol. I began this year with a water-only fast. Now again, I was uninformed at the time. I didn't properly prepare for this fast, since I just didn't know of the importance of replenishing your electrolytes, nor was I fat adapted, but still eating a high-carb diet. I just went into it with sheer willpower, which definitely was not a good idea. Well, at the end of day 2 of this fast, I remember laying in my bed with that overwhelming feeling of hunger in my stomach. And as I laid there in my bed, I had a moment when I realized that millions around the world had this very same empty feeling in their own stomach. That same desperation that I felt laying in my bed, they too felt. The big difference was that mine was by choice. I knew that at any moment I could choose to walk to my kitchen and relieve the pain and discomfort. I knew that I had an abundance of food and nourishment all around me. Yet for those millions around the world who had this similar desperation, sadly didn't have a refrigerator full of food like I did. They were in a situation where either poverty or war reduced the means to get the food rations. It wasn't as simple for them as walking to the kitchen to make themselves or even their children a meal. This opened my eyes to the issues of true starvation. But this topic is for a whole nother episode. Well, my point is that when I finally completed the 3 days of fasting, I experienced a new appreciation for food that I had previously overlooked. When I completed my fast and went to get my very first meal, I sat down to a hot chicken soup, and wow, was that a special soup. A nourishing and absolutely delicious warm soup that I had in front of me after 3 days of nothing was an experience I won't easily forget. As I sat there savoring each spoonful, I reminded myself of that hunger from the night before, and the real gratitude I felt made me see why fasting is such a profound practice. But if my now wiser and informed self would get a chance to redo it, I would consider doing things a bit differently. First, I would make sure to replenish my electrolytes with some quality pink Himalayan sea salt, and ideally, I would be fat adapted with the use of a ketogenic diet to make the fast much easier. You see, once you're on a lower carb or ketogenic diet, fasting becomes a walk in the park, since your body no longer needs to rely on the limited supply of glucose like someone who is on a high-carb diet would. They depend on the breakdown of stored glycogen. And remember, a carb burner only has around 2,000 calories of stored glycogen that is available, making fasting much more challenging. And when you shift your body to get the main source of its energy from the healthy fats on your plate and on your belly, will give it the ability to easily tap into your own fat reserves during a fast. Even thinner individuals can store up to 40,000 calories of energy in their fat reserves. And when that fat is broken down, will increase the production of the superfuel, ketones, allowing you to feel energized and highly productive during a fast. Meaning if I was on a keto lifestyle back when I did my 3-day fast, I would have had a much easier time enduring it, instead of jumping right into something my body wasn't used to. It is best to have stages to progress through to more easily implement fasting into your lifestyle. This is why my 120-page ebook is called 5th Stage Keto, since it lays out stages to go through to prepare your system to more easily be able to apply intermittent fasting into your day. This is helpful in avoiding the pitfalls of jumping into the deep end before you're ready, and you can download your copy at burnitnutrition.com/5th Stage Keto. We are currently running a 50% off special for the release of this podcast, so jump on it before it runs out. I firmly believe that a fast shouldn't be forced, but happen naturally, which is exactly what happens when you go keto. Now that we get an idea on the history and benefits of fasting, we can go over the many different ways that fasting can be implemented. Just like there are plenty of different diets, there is also a wide variety of ways of applying fasting, ranging from the more advanced and longer 7 to 10-day fasts done less often, to the more frequent and shorter fasts like intermittent fasting. Let's shine the spotlight on intermittent fasting, also called IF for short, since it's the most effortless method to implement and the easiest to stick to, which is why it is the most popular method of fasting. IF has many different ways it can be applied, allowing you to pick which feeding schedule works best for you. Remember, you shouldn't have to change your whole life to fit into a preset fasting schedule. Instead, you should find a fasting schedule that fits your life, not the other way around. This way you can make it into a sustainable practice. Some options for IF are, for example, alternate day fasting, meaning you have one full day of fasting, followed by another day of regular eating, followed by another day of full day fasting, which over the span of a week will lead to a caloric deficit. Then, there are shorter methods of IF, like the warrior diet, which you fast for 20 hours with a 4-hour feeding window. A feeding window is the set number of hours that you are to consume all your calories for the day. Also, don't feel like you have to be exact with your feeding window. Just use it as a ballpark to aim for. Now, there is also the 16/8 diet, which has a fasting period of 16 hours with an 8-hour feeding window. This is by far the most popular method since it fits in well with the lives of most. This is the method I use, and I find it so easy to skip breakfast. I honestly don't see myself stopping at any time soon, since it just makes my life easier and more enjoyable. Now, just because this is the method I recommend, doesn't mean longer and more prolonged fasts are not beneficial. If you enjoy and are willing to endure day after day of fasting, then great. You're definitely helping your chances to prevent cancer, since the lowering of sugar weakens cancer cells that thrive on sugar. You can listen to episode 7 to learn more about this. Now, at this stage of my life, I find shorter intermittent fasts work best for me, and eventually I may work my way up to longer fasts, but for now, I'll stick with IF. Again, the best method of fasting is the one that fits your personal lifestyle. You see, sometimes your job, responsibilities, or training schedule may cause the feeding window you choose to be completely different than another doing a fast, which is okay. Like many things in life, people sometimes feel that the method that works best for them is the supreme and only way to go about fasting, believing that all other methods of fasting are incorrect or not as good. But this is a flawed perspective to have. The The reality is that each method of fasting comes with their own pros and cons, and it's up to the individual, or in some cases their physician, to determine which method fits their lifestyle or preset goals. For example, I have found that fasting is easiest when done in the morning, since it allows me to have improved cognitive ability, helping me get most of my work done. It also helps me save most of my calories towards the end of the day, when I and many others have found that the willpower is at its lowest. This allows me to sit down to a delicious dinner with my family, which is good for our social health. But then, some people do better with a feeding window that begins with breakfast as their large meal, and instead choose to skip dinner. For some of these individuals, they may have found that their levels of stress from the various issues life can bring make it easier on them to start their day with a meal. Maybe they're not getting enough sleep, so it would make more sense for them to reduce their cortisol levels in the morning by having a healthy breakfast. And there is nothing wrong with that. Remember, whatever works best for your life is the correct method for you. And sometimes the only way to find this out is to try different fasting methods throughout your journey. Remember, nothing is set in stone when it comes to your body transformation. As you progress in life, you may find that a method that worked and felt right in your 20s won't be as helpful for you in your 40s or 50s. And it's okay to change things up if you feel it will help you. There is still much more to cover, but since this is such a large topic, we have to make this into a 2-part episode. So make sure to tune in next week where we'll go over the do's and don'ts of fasting, as well as diving into fasted training and the ways to do it effectively. But in the meantime, let's go over some of the people who probably shouldn't fast at all. So, even though fasting comes with a vast range of health benefits that can improve the lives of many, not everyone is in a stage in their lives where beginning a fasting method would be a good idea. You see, even though fasting is a tool that brings on healing, it is still a form of physical stress on the body. Now, we have already discussed in episode 8 on how certain calculated discomfort can be beneficial, where we went over foam rolling and its benefits on recovery. But with some people, adding more physical stress to their lives by starting a fast won't be a smart thing to do. For example, women who happen to be pregnant or nursing a newborn. They are in a stage in their life where bringing healthy nourishment is vital to the health of the new mom and of the new baby. So it's best to have a steady flow of energy, preferably from healthy fats, to feed the growing brain of the baby. So fasting wouldn't be a smart thing to do. Young children are another example of people who probably shouldn't fast. Growing children have an accelerated metabolism that requires energy to allow their bodies to grow strong, which is why fasting isn't the best idea. Also, anyone who has just had a serious surgery and is in recovery probably shouldn't fast, since the body isn't in a healthy enough state where it can utilize the full benefits of fasting. It's best to allow some time to pass and regain their strength before attempting any fasts. Another important thing to consider before fasting is if you have any medical conditions like kidney or liver issues. It would then be necessary to speak with your doctor before attempting any fasts. Also, if you are a diabetic who is taking medication to reduce blood sugar, they too need to work with their doctor before starting a fast. This is very important, since fasting alone will do a great job at lowering the blood sugar. And when you add on more medication on top of fasting, will increase the chances of hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. This is why it's important that your doctor monitor your medication and lower the dose as needed if you're a diabetic. Which brings me to address the fear of hypoglycemia. This is a fear that many who aren't even diabetics have when doing a fast. But these are people with normal levels of blood sugar, yet they still worry that not eating for more than 2 hours will cause their blood sugar to plummet, thinking it will lead them to passing out. Many still believe the flawed idea that the body requires a certain amount of sugar to be able to function, but this just isn't the case. Remember, our bodies have evolved to be able to routinely fast without the risk of falling into a coma. The body is designed with the systems in place that provide the small amount of sugars the brain requires without the need to eat anything. Processes like gluconeogenesis, as well as beta oxidation of fats, can all produce the low levels of sugar needed by the body. Plus, the creation of ketones during a fast allows the body to continue to have the enhanced cognitive energy needed to survive and thrive during periods without food. Rephrasing the words of Dr. Jason Fung, a nephrologist based out of Toronto and one of the leading minds behind the practice of fasting, he put it this way when he was asked the question behind the fear of hypoglycemia. He explained that our species simply wouldn't have survived this long without these systems in place. If our bodies couldn't endure a short fast, then the human race would have gone extinct with the first shortage of food. And that many don't realize that people all over the world apply intermittent fasting without them even knowing it. Every time they go into a clinic for a fasted blood draw, an ultrasound, or a short fast that is required before surgery, that's a fast. They may not realize it, but they just did an intermittent fast. And guess what? They didn't fall into a coma. IF is safe. I'm currently 17 hours into my fast as I record at this very moment. I like recording fasted since it keeps me sharp, helping me get it done faster. And guess what? I feel fine. I'm not close to going comatose from hypoglycemia, but more like I'm on top of the world. But really, I actually feel great. So, friends, don't think that intermittent fasting will lead to hypoglycemia. Our bodies have evolved to do just fine. Now again, the caveat is that you are not a diabetic that is on blood sugar medication. They should be concerned, which again is why they need to work with their doctor. Other individuals that probably shouldn't fast are those who already have very low body fat, since they simply just don't have the fat reserves to sustain a fast, especially a longer, prolonged fast. You see, the less fat you have on your body, the higher the percentage of muscle you may have to break down to supply energy, and so fasting may not be their best approach. Lastly, it may also be a good idea to take a break from a fasting protocol if you're experiencing an increase in stress. For example, if there is a loss in the family, times like these can be very hard to deal with, and adding more to the stress of the death in the family by fasting may do more harm than good. So consider putting a pause on fasting until your life begins to normalize, and you can get back into your rhythm. We have now reached the end of part 1 of the fasting episode of the Burn It Nutrition podcast. We will be back next week to go over some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to fasting, as well as going over the ways to implement fasted training. I hope this episode gave you a better idea on the history of fasting and some of the health benefits it can bring. Again, remember that fasting isn't mandatory. It should never feel forced. It's not good to go into a fast with a sense of dread or fear. A fast, when done right, can have profound mental and physical benefits that make it a crucial tool to have in your tool belt. All it takes is finding the method that works best for you. And I, and many others, have found that applying a fasting protocol while on a lower carb or ketogenic diet is the best 1-2 punch for health and a body transformation. So, if you want a step-by-step guide on the methods I use to drop 60 pounds of pure fat in just 7 months, then download your copy of 5th Stage Keto. This is a 120-page ebook that will give you the tools to help you reach your own transformation. And you can get it on our website at burnitnutrition.com. Also, remember to let go of the idea that there is an end to your journey. Don't see your new health habits as only a means to an end. Instead, enjoy the process and find ways to create your new journey into a lifestyle. Keep evolving your methods and continue to feed your brain the science and motivation it can use to better your life. Believe in yourself and in the life you see in your dreams. Fight to make it into a reality with each new day that is given to you. Stay driven, and before you know it, the goals you felt were too high or too far to reach will be at your fingertips. Keep up those good vibes and continue to find ways to upgrade your life and improve the lives of others. Try to find ways to do small and simple things to help others. You may be surprised how they also help you in the process. So, friends, if you learned some good takeaways from this podcast, then please take a moment and give us a review on iTunes. This small and kind gesture on your part will mean a lot to us, and you will feel better for doing it. Simply search for the Burn It Nutrition podcast on iTunes and type in a short review on what you liked about this show, as well as giving us a rating, a 5-star rating, of course. Which leads us to our review of the week. This one is by Rando, who gave us a 5-star rating, and he wrote, "Dig it. Super informational, motivating, and entertaining. Keep 'em coming." Thank you, Rando. I truly appreciate it, and will do my best to keep bringing the show to your ears. If you want to get a shout out, then give us a review, and if I like it, you will hear it on the show. Also, if there are any friends who you think would be interested in the benefits of fasting, then share the show with them. Also, I firmly believe it's important to give back to the streams that feed you. And if the Burn It Nutrition podcast has helped you, then why not give back to help keep the lights on? And you can give back at paypal.me/burnit. Again, that is paypal.me/burnit. And help us keep this stream flowing. Well, I hope you join us for part 2 of this episode next week. It just won't be the same if you're not with us. Now brace yourself, because it's time to let it burn.